All right, today we're going to finish this up. So we have them lined up pretty well, just now adding the finishing touches to blend these two guys together. So one thing I noticed is even though I searched large images, which you should always be doing, the horse is a little bit kind of pixelated and left some of this white background in the horse's mane. It's not so bad up here where it's in the sky area, but it doesn't look so great down here when it's in front of the trees. So I'm going to work on the horse's layer mask there and just kind of eliminate some of these white areas with a teeny tiny brush. Another thing you can do if you have something like this going on is you can use more of a scattered brush, and that just kind of helps stop it from looking too linear as you're doing this. Okay, that's probably as good as I'm going to get that. Now, next steps are seeing if I need to blend from this fur to that fur. And you can blend either way. You can blend from the horse to the dachshund or the dachshund to the horse. So, and actually it's not looking too bad already. So if I turn the horse off, I'm just going to kind of see what I've got here and what I've got here. All right, let me try adding an adjustment layer, which is this icon right here. And I want to work with hue saturation to start with. Now, if you have one animal that's just way more bright and vibrant than the other, saturation can really help with this. And I'm going to click this little icon right here. That will clip it to the layer just underneath. So this is going to only affect the horse right now. And if I turn the saturation down on the horse a little bit, I'm not sure if I need to for these because I think both my animals are pretty equally saturated, but you can see what happens. So it can get a lot brighter or duller. So try to match those saturations up as much as you can. And I'm kind of looking at the dachshund's feet down here so I can see how that saturation looks. It's hard to see it on the black. And then I'm going to maybe just play with the hue a little bit and see if I can get this color on the horse closer to this color on the dachshund. And these things can get pretty crazy, so if you move it around a lot, you'll see a huge difference in that color. Okay, so I'm thinking right there looks pretty good. So it's just very mild. And I actually think those look pretty darn good together. I thought that I was choosing a challenging animal, but as it turns out, it matched up pretty nicely. So I'm going to do just a little bit more blending on the horse layer. I'm going to switch to white, and on my brush tool, I'll go back to a normal soft brush, but this time I'm turning the opacity and flow down to about 50, and then maybe just start blending that horse back in a little bit. And again, I'm on the layer mask. I don't really like this area where the horse is too light looking, so I'll blend that back out a little bit. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So now what I want to do is I'm going to add a layer, and I'm going to put that layer just above my landscape layer, and I'll call that shadow. And we haven't worked a lot with shadows yet, so we're going to do this the easy way. I'm going to switch my color to black, soft brush, opacity and flow way down, and I'm just going to really gently add a shadow under him. Don't get too crazy with this because otherwise it'll end up looking like something that it's not. So we want to just very gently and very carefully think about how this shadow would look. if you overdo it, you are on a single layer, so you could always go to your eraser tool. And on your eraser tool, you also want to be on a 0% hardness and turn your opacity and flow to about 50. And you could take some of this away. It's very gentle clicks like that. You can go back and forth from your black color to your eraser tool until you get this looking somewhat like how you think the shadow would look. And then I'm not going to get too crazy with this head. We'll just think of it as the sun is kind of up overhead and we're not really seeing much of a head shadow. We could maybe come up and do something like this. Okay, but I wouldn't get any more crazy than that. Okay, another thing I'm noticing is on my dachshund, on his back foot back here, there's a shadow remaining from the other image. So I'm going to paint black on my layer mask. I'll turn these back up to 100. However, I'm going to keep it on a soft brush and just get rid of these. Okay, the other thing that I could do is I could, using the same technique, I can start bringing up some grass between his toes. So we'll start with this foot right here. And again, I'm on the layer mask of the dachshund. And I might want to go back to that scatter brush and just start kind of clicking around, hiding his foot as if the grass is coming up into it. Okay, and from a distance that looks pretty good. So we're just going to do a little bit of that on each foot. It's really careful when you're doing this that you're always checking which layer or layer mask that you're on so that you're not damaging your images or working on the wrong layer mask and you're not getting frustrated with that. Okay, so it looks like he's standing more in the grass now. And then the last thing I'm going to do is go back to my shadow. And back to 50 and 50. And just intensify this a little bit by his feet. Okay, then Command 0. Make sure everything's looking good. It's getting a little bit braver with the shadow there. Okay, so once you're done, you're going to save and submit. And just to point out that I didn't use every adjustment layer that's available. And also, I never did use the clone stamp, which you could use. So I'll go over that really quickly. In my case, I really did not need the clone stamp, but let's say I wanted to put this kind of horse pattern down here. So what you can do is, while you're on the clone stamp, make sure you are on all layers. Here, I hold the Option key and I click one time. So I just took a picture of the horse's fur right there, and so if I wanted to stamp that someplace else, I click and paint. So you see that just stamped that up there. Now I'm going to Command Z because I don't think that's necessary for my image. But if you wanted to stamp back and forth, you could do that. If you need help with that using the clone stamp tool, please ask me for help. And also in the video you watched the last time, that designer actually took cuts of pieces of one animal and pasted them over, and so he had several layers where he was doing that. That's another option, although I think that's a little bit more challenging. I think the key is if you find the right two animals, you're going to have an easier, more successful time with this. Before you submit, make sure everything is properly labeled over here and make sure that your file is named last first hybrid or hybrid animal, and then you can save and submit.